Okay. Will we now begin the Reclamation District 9 board meeting for February 17th, 2022. We have one board member absent, Karina Orozco. And next we will have just a explanation of why we're meeting by Zoom pursuant to Government Code Section 54953 as amended by Assembly Bill 361 and due to the state of emergency declared by the governor on March 4th, 2020, members of the Reclamation District Board of Trustees and staff will participate in this meeting via teleconference to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Members of the public may watch the meeting via live stream and participate via public comment on the information provided on the website. Next, we'll go to item 1A, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the district. The agency is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to them at this time. Mr. General Manager, do we have any requests to speak?
No, we have no request to speak, and there has been no members of the public.
We have our counsel who has just raised his hand. I'd like to ask to see if he has any questions or comments.
No, I'm sorry. That was a stray hand raise. I apologize.
That's okay. Mine does that too on occasion. Okay. Close that public comment. Next is of the consent agenda part 2. We have items 2 through 4. Are there any requests to pull an item for the discussion? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll call the moves.
Ledesma, 1 second.
Okay, thank you. Next is item 5, district project updates. Mr. General Manager.
President,
We need a vote.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we
We'll
need a
do
vote. I'll accept Mr. General Manager, please call the roll. Sorry about that.
Trustee Early.
Aye.
Trustee Ledesma.
Aye.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
And President Guerrero.
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you. That is, those items are approved. And Mr. Nevis, that's probably why you had your hand up, just to remind me about that too. So next is item 5, district project updates. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, President Guerrero and trustees. I'd like to go over a few of the items that are in your progress report. The recruitment for the general manager, as you know, the second recruitment's in progress. As of the report earlier today, the applications or resumes are improving over the last time. And as of right now, it looks like we may, within the coming week or so, have somewhere between 3 and 6 applications or applicants. And hoping to get more, but that's certainly more interest than we had last time for qualified, I should say apparently qualified applicants. So keep fingers crossed. I think we're probably looking at either a special meeting, not either, but a special meeting in early March or late March. I'll be on vacation, one that I've had planned for some time, that's going to overlap with the regular March meeting. So we will need to cancel the regular meeting in March. And so at the end of my presentation, I'd like to go over some available dates with the board that you may be for this special meeting to conduct interviews. All right. From routine maintenance right now is really all about vegetation control. As the board's aware, we've had little rain and a lot of sunshine. So staff is trying to keep up with all of the vegetation that's growing both on the levees as well as the drainage canals and detention basins. So they're spraying a lot of herbicides to control the broadleaf, as well as doing a lot of mowing, and that's keeping them extremely busy. Nothing to update on the system-wide investment framework. LWA is continuing to do their work. I am asking them for an estimate of planned expenditures to help remove encroachments and do some other things related to SWIFT deficiency management, and because those costs are qualify for reimbursement under FMAP. And as the board may recall, we applied for FMAP. The district applied for FMAP funding for 2022, and we were awarded that for approximately $340,000. And so, in addition to offsetting O&M, I want to try and maximize our ability to remove the deficiencies that were found, and they are contained in part of our SWIFT. So, anyways, getting estimates so that I can then amend the agreement with DWR to include those costs. As of right now, it's they solely approved O&M, and I don't know that we're going to be able to come up with $340,000 of additional O&M activities for the year. So I'm going to try and focus as much of it as I can towards removing deficiencies and getting us back into good standing with all the levies. All right. On the Blacker Canal project, so we're right now preparing all the applications for the various regulatory agencies. We're hopeful that we can get the applications and the permits issued early enough this year that we can go to construction. We have to be able to do the work before October because of giant garter snake. The work is occurring in giant garter snake habitat. So fingers crossed that we can get that done. If not, then that work will get scheduled for the following year. It's not a problem from the grant standpoint for extending the duration. And then we're also working with Cal OES, who's administering the grant on behalf of FEMA, to get an amendment to cover the additional cost escalation for construction, as well as additional costs for dewatering. And we have to have biological monitors on site to look out for the garter snake. So those were not contemplated with the original application and grant award. But process-wise, it's just a matter of going through that process with Cal OES, and there should not be a problem. Oh, also, results of the meeting that we had with the one concerned resident who had written that very nice letter some time ago, and who also spoke before the board. So the entire environmental team met with them at their house. They were kind enough to invite us into their backyard to take a look at their view of the ditch and some of the concerns they had. And really, they just really wanted to minimize to the maximum extent practical impacts to trees and other vegetation that, supports the habitat out there that they enjoy, the ducks and other things. And so, we committed to, not arbitrarily going through and just removing vegetation, not arbitrarily going through and removing trees, but limbing them up if that's all that's needed, leaving them alone when we don't need to mess with them. And then I think importantly, letting them know in advance if some of the vegetation, trees in particular, need to be managed. And so they are just aware of what's going on. And they appreciated it, and they understood, and they really expressed no further objections. So we'll be able to wrap up the response to comments now on the mitigated neg deck. And I should be returning to the board either at the special meeting in March or at a meeting in April for the board to adopt the revised plans and specifications for the project, and then certify CEQA, and then we can give me the authorization to file a notice of determination with the county. So that's the Blacker project in a nutshell. Any questions before I move on that one?
General Manager, can you share that really nice letter with Trustee Early? That's was shared with us, I think, before her time.
Certainly. On the Drever Courtyard project, the final electrical connection and meter was being installed today. So we're going to be free to schedule the movers now and go ahead and move folks in. So we're looking end of this month or in March, depending on movers' availability. And I have not forgot about a ribbon cutting or other open house type event to celebrate.
I'll go to the ribbon cutting. I ain't going to help you move.
I really wanted to have a new general manager on board before the move. Full honesty.
Do you have enough help to get you to move? That's a lot of heavy equipment you got to move.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we're getting movers, to assist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, the emergency preparation coordination meeting has been rescheduled to March 9. And then there's going to be some additional exercises happening later in the year. I think there's a more expanded countywide tabletop in, I believe it's June, and then a much more involved exercise, I believe it's in August. And as those invitations go out, I'll keep the board updated. And it's really nice that this year, all of the RD900 staff will be participating. Workloads, allowing, they'll be participating, which would be nice. On the flood control bill, that's making its way towards the agriculture and water something committee. I can never remember that name, but we're working with the committee staff now and answering a few questions that they have related to the bill. And I think I mentioned last time that the draft bill that Pan introduced had previously deleted sections accidentally included. The one about makeup of the board being able to be appointed by members of the public, that received, if you recall from last year, that on the previous bill received a significant opposition to where it was going to likely kill the bill. And so that was removed in previous versions. Somehow or another that ended up being included in this draft. So we're already working with staff now. So when it goes to committee, that will already be edited out. But if you go look online right now for SB 901, you'll see language in there related to board appointments that will be coming out.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, it'll be heard March 8th in Senate Natural Resources and Water. It's double referred.
That's it, yep.
Which includes Senate Governance and Finance. And interesting, it's not been referred. Let me see if it's been referred to appropriations. It doesn't have an appropriations referral.
I think in previous, and I don't know the timing of it, but in previous iterations that occurred.
It will.
Post.
Yeah, it'll go to fiscal committee because it is marked, but it doesn't have it quoted in history, but it will. Yeah.
All right, and just to be clear, the two, excuse me, the two pieces of the bill that will be remaining. One is the state authorization of the federal flood project. It's a kind of a companion piece to the federal authorization. And then the consolidation of the MA4 area into RD900. The other provision that we'd like to include with the bill, but also maybe a non-starter for some, and that's getting an extension on the SB5 requirement to achieve 200-year level of flood protection by 2025. The current federal project, we won't complete as currently scheduled till 2029. It's just physically impossible to improve all of the levees in the next 2.5 years. So we're looking to get an extension, but that will likely have to take place in a separate standalone bill. So that it doesn't affect the outcome of what we're trying to carry forward in 901. But we will have the conversations. We'll see if there's a path forward. But if there's any resistance, we'll do a separate standalone next year. And then I think, so the Connect project, I've mentioned this before. This is one that I've been working spending a lot of time working with the city and the developer. These are the apartments essentially at the northeast corner of Jefferson and Lake Washington. They've planned their apartments within 5 to 7 feet of the north side of the canal. There's not enough room for the district to do its normal operations and maintenance, mowing and vegetation management. So we've explored several options, and we've received different cost estimates, both from the city and from the developer, that range from contracted vegetation management, which is the cheapest end of an alternative solution, which they would pay for. And at the most expensive end is installing box culverts and burying everything, and rather than having an open ditch, we have box culverts below ground to convey the stormwater. And at that end, I'm going to consult my cheat sheet here. The high end of that is somewhere between $5 and $8 million. Other options that we're looking at is a concrete lining the north side of the ditch, so that we remove the need to do vegetation management. That alternative comes in between $175,000 and $200,000. And a pipe solution, not using box culverts, but using either 60 or 72 inch, essentially plastic pipe, comes in. The two estimates vary. One's at $1.2 million, the other $1.9 million. And to be clear, the contracted vegetation management is about $8,000 a year and would go on in perpetuity. So from money aside, from the management perspective, my perspective, piping it would be a really eloquent solution. It would remove all conflicts between the adjacent apartment and the ditch. Quite frankly, they're going to build this so close that there's ever any aggressive erosion like there is on the Blacker Canal project, their parking lot's going to fall into the ditch and some of their covered parking and other things. They've really they've kind of backed everybody into a corner with how this project has gotten as far as it has, quite frankly.
Greg, may I?
Yeah.
Yes, go.
Madam President, thank you. Now I forgot my question. Oh, so this is on the northeast part. This is the lot.
It's behind Station 45, north of Station 45.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, thank you. And so, did the city? I'm trying to think of the right question to ask. So they're putting the parking lot up against that, up right up against the canal. Is that what they're doing? And they're trying to reserve. You're trying to preserve our right of way and ability to. Okay.
Yeah, it's very complicated. Up front, the district was not brought into this project until they're ready to pull permits to start doing the grading. Problem number one. Problem number two is the rights that exist there, for whatever reason, are recorded from center line of the ditch south 30 feet. RD900 has an O&M easement. There is no acknowledgement of any O&M easement center line of the ditch north, which is the area of concern. Their property actually starts and goes into the ditch, the property line. And we've taken a look at older surveys and recent surveys and title search. And so that's further complicating things. Our initial request was, it's still on paper, move it all northward. And they are constrained by property lines, and for lack of a better description, the response was, we can't do that at this point. We need to work to find a solution. And that's what we're trying to do. Their preference is the cheapest solution, which is the $8,000 a year. I think they're willing to sign on the dotted line tomorrow if they could, and commit through an agreement, a maintenance agreement, to fund those activities. And then we would probably need to have some type of hold harmless agreement, or in the agreement have some type of hold harmless language for each of us, because there may be a situation where in a storm or whatever, the district may need to access the ditch for other reasons other than vegetation, and may need to encroach on their property. And so we'll need to hold each other harmless for some of those things. Now, if we can find a solution, a pipe solution, in the $1 to $1.5 million range, where it could be a cost share between the district, the city, and the developer, if such a compromise or agreement could be reached, I think it's a really elegant solution in that with everything at grade, the district will have a very well-defined O&M corridor right down the middle of the ditch that does not encroach on anybody's property. There will be no issues with any future erosion or other need or concerns about the property to the north. It will provide trail access to the Clarksburg Branch Line Trail from Jeff. It's just very expensive, and I don't know. Certainly, the district is not in a position to move forward with that type of project without some planning or cost sharing or grant. And even if we don't do that type of project today, and we go for, in the interim, just an annual O&M agreement, it's not something we couldn't revisit this in the future as well. So those are the things that I'm working through. My next planned step is to meet with city management to see what their preference and or desire is, given the current situation and the potential for a possible trail access in the future as well.
So is the reclamation districts, our interest is preserving our ability to service that canal, and that it functions, right?
Yeah, that canal receives the discharge from the main drain pump station,
right?
From MC10 basin.
Yeah,
and then conveys it, across that property underneath Jefferson into the main drain canal, all the way to the south to the main drain pump station. So it serves a significant portion of the city from essentially Lake Washington all the way up to the locks.
Okay. All right.
We'll keep you posted.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, for sure.
And if there, I'll just keep you posted.
Trustee, I'll call it, end up, and then you put it down. Do you have any questions?
Well, I did, and that was one of the things I was going to ask Greg, what the first option was and what he felt about, the developers actually, paying for it all. I mean, they're the ones that obviously, created this situation, but I know we're trying to work with everyone, so.
Yeah, and they have definite rights, and without, the district has certainly some implied rights, and we have rights that have been demonstrated.
Madam President.
Well, there we go.
Yes.
This is the time for the general manager's report of matters, and it would be best if the board wishes to have a discussion in depth of this issue with that development. It should be put on next month's agenda.
I see. Thank you. I guess it could be put on the agenda if we have more questions at this point.
Okay.
And then let's see, I think lastly is the update on the flood project from Wasafka. And as I reported, well, whether reported or not, we've got the continuing resolution that I just read today that the Senate passed its version of the bill, and it's on its way to the president now to extend the continuing resolution to March 11. And then I'm also hearing that good progress is being made on an omnibus appropriations bill that presumably will be passed and signed by the president before the end of the next CR. Now, if that happens, or when that happens, then the New Start and the $17.9 million in construction funding becomes available to the Corps, and we can start executing our agreement and moving towards going to bid and getting to construction. Also at that point, we'll be lobbying hard for some additional funding, 17 million to be specific, in the work plan that will follow that bill, so that we can construct both segments of the Yellow Bypass reach, not just the one that we have the funding for now. So that's the plan. I think also there is unspecified, unallocated monies with the Corps from the spend plan from the IIJA, the Jobs Act. And although we didn't get any funding through that, the Corps is still looking for ways to program that. So in conjunction with the work that we're going to do, lobbying for work plan funding, we're going to try and see if we can get a second bite at the IIJA work plan for some additional funds. And then while all that's going on, I think in the beginning of March, I'm hearing right around March 1st, President's budget request will be released, and that will likely contain, it better, some funds for the Wasafka project in the construction category, which is kind of a cart and horse scenario, right? Until the new start is granted, we're technically not in construction. And so a lot of folks, including myself, are kind of scratching our heads. Are we actually going to see a president's budget request with recommended funding for our project for construction in advance of the new start actually being approved? We'll see. Now, in terms of when they go into effect, the new start will be in place, half of a year before the new budget takes effect October 1 of this year. So that's not a problem. It's only optics and what we would see on paper. So,
right.
And that, yes, concludes my update. Again, I'll be sending out a cancellation notice for the regular March board meeting, which would occur on the 17th. And if you can indulge me by checking your calendars, well, that may be a bit laborious. March 1st through March 7th, from 2 p.m. forward, if you could send me your availability, email it to me and I'll compile it. And so we got March 1st through, let me look at my March 1st through March 8th. And that would be my pre-vacation availability. And also March 23rd through March 31st, again, 2 p.m. or later.
What do you recommend as far as doing interviews? Do you think you'll have enough time to package all that up, or do you prefer the later time?
Hard to say. Well, I have to give it another week or so to actually have the consultant receive all of the applications and resumes. I'm hopeful that we can do it before. And we have 5 or 6 viable candidates, then we would just schedule a special board where all the board can participate, as opposed to last time. At least this is the way I read the tea leaves. As opposed to last time where we kind of divvied it up and had a pre-interview and then a second interview. And I think for the request of the board, having one set of interviews with all board members present would probably be best way to go.
Greg, you said March 1st through March 7th. What times?
The afternoon, 2 p.m. onward.
Okay, thank you.
And through the 8th. So March 1 through March 8, and then March.
How is March 6th for everybody at after 5?
I think March 6th is the only day that I can't.
Sorry, March 7th after 5.
March 7th, we have a city school 2x2 at 5:30.
You do? It's not on my calendar. No, we already
Oh, go ahead, Martha.
had a city school 2x2.
March. Don't we have it in March?
No, we just had it. It's every other month.
Okay, all right.
Greg, I'll send you an email with my just with my scheduler, and she'll give you all the dates that I'm available. That way.
Okay, so again, March 1 through March 8 and March 23 through 31.
Okay.
If
I'll
you
send
have,
the same, I'll send you dates that aren't good and we'll go from there.
okay. I would appreciate that, and I'll compile it and then send that back out to the group for info, and we can decide from there.
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
All right, and I think that is it. Any other questions? If not, then I think I'll turn it back over to the president to take it away, take us away.
I'll open it up for public comment. This project updates, and I guess there are none. Bring it back. And our next item is item number 6, trustee comments. Any comments? All right, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you for joining us, Marianne.
So moved. I'll call him Archie.
All right, Mr. General
Archie
Manager.
second.
So I'm sorry, who first and
I
seconded?
seconded.
Norma?
Norman first, Dante seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so was there a request for the roll? Yes?
Yes,
All right.
I think Archie was asking for it too.
Trustee Ledesma?
Aye.
Trustee Alcala?
Aye.
Trustee Early?
Aye.
And President Guerrero?
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank
See you guys
you.
later.